And welcome once again to another episode of the HoriZone Roundtable. This week is a big week because we are now officially in March Madness. NCAA Tournament is upon us, and it's so big. Jimmy Lemke, we are doing 2 episodes this week.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Bob McDonald. I am at campuspressbox.com, and I am can be found on Twitter at Bob McDonald. Jimmy, where can they find you, sir?
You can find me at PantherU on Twitter. I have gone rogue in the last couple days. Or you can find me.
We'll get a lot more into that in the next episode. So
no, this episode is not about me. Not about AD. This is about Green Bay.
Yes, it really is. It absolutely is. And before we intro our guest, remember you can find us at fourlights.fm. Our gracious host, and you can find us wherever good podcasts are found, iTunes, Stitcher, you name it. Today to the victors go to spoils, Jimmy, and today the victor is Green Bay, and so we have as our guest is Brian Dickmann from Phear the Phoenix.
That's right.
What's going on, Brian?
How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Not as good as you, sir.
I'm doing pretty great, yeah.
So, and Brian, where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Phear the Phoenix. That's with a PH. And my personal handle is at Brian Dickmann. My website is fearthephoenix.web.com. And the message board, of course, is fearthephoenix.proboards.com.
All right. So, and with Green Bay, obviously, the big thing is they went through the rare gauntlet that only a few other schools have gone through in this.
Hold on. I would argue that none of us have done it. Cleveland
Not in this
State.
format.
You represent Cleveland State. I represent Milwaukee. Some listeners out there, I'm sure, are fans of Detroit. And none of the 3 schools did it in 4 days. So Green Bay
not in this format.
On that.
You rise above. Yes, the Phoenix rises above all of us. Okay,
Nice.
There you go. So, and of course, as we alluded to at our episode last week, Jimmy and I, obviously representing Milwaukee and Cleveland State, have something in common, of which Green Bay, beat both of our teams, and then they turned around and shocked Valpo, and then got through Wright State and punched its ticket.
That's right. That Valpo game, after Peters hit that layup and to send it to overtime, I just wanted to crawl up into a ball on the floor.
Yeah. Now that was interesting.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, that I don't think I'm ever going to get over that one because before we recorded before that game took place, and that was complete insanity. That just that last second, and I think the scenario was it was Cooper at the line, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Cooper had missed the first free throw and made the second free throw. And
which can we stop there? Full stop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I talked to a couple fans from Green Bay fairly regularly, and both of them had sent me. We were DMing on Twitter throughout that entire game, and both of them are like, "Why do you make that shot? Like, why do you make that second free throw? How is Link Darner not saying to this guy?" Just chuck it off the glass and hope it doesn't actually go in. I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't want to jump on Green Bay, but they almost lost that game. What if that pass had been 3/4 court to Peters and he hit a 3-pointer and the game was over?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's so. Green Bay came very close to throwing it away with a made free throw, and then luckily this Valpo was completely out of gas. I don't know how that happened. A team on its 3rd game in 3 days was playing a team that hadn't played in 8, and all the team that was on its 3rd game in 3 days was just ran them into the ground in overtime. So I think it's a testament to that RP40, hashtag RP40. The Green Bay was a very well-conditioned basketball team. So, more power to them, and then take care of Wright State, and it's on to the tournament.
It's funny because free throws have kind of been a bugaboo all year. They're only shooting 66% from the line, I think. And it was almost a made free throw that cost them. So it's kind of funny.
The irony is not lost on us. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, but regardless of what Alec Peters does, and just absolutely astounding last play, Green Bay turns around in that overtime and just dominates Valpo. I mean, it's amazing to be down to actually not to be in a position that Green Bay is, where they nearly let one slip through their hands, and then they just ratcheted it up in that extra step and just basically took over that extra frame.
Right, and Darner said after the game that the senior leaders, especially Carrington Love, were kind of rallying the troops and saying, we get to play 5 more minutes, which to me is ridiculous because I didn't think there was any way they were going to win that game. So for those guys to come out the way they did, that was just amazing to me.
What I find interesting about just even in the Green Bay story itself, and I don't know, and I'll be honest with you, I'm older than both of you, so I actually do probably remember a little better the last time Green Bay made it to the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a little more interesting because of the fact that for 2 years previous, 2014 and the 2013-2014 and 2014-2015, that 13-14 crew had Alec Brown and Kiefer Sykes. Last year you had Kiefer Sykes, and then it's this year's edition that makes it to the NCAA tournament.
Right, and coming into the season, I know me personally, I didn't know what to expect with the new coach, and we lost our entire recruiting class, and so for this to happen this year is pretty amazing, especially after the way the past 3 seasons ended. We had the Brokoff buzzer beater 3 years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, and Jimmy knows all about 2014, what happened there at the Resch Center. And
I don't. Do you want to talk about it for 20 minutes?
I really don't. I've tried to block that out of my memory. That was a horrible night. And then last year, I went down to Valpo for the championship last year, and I think Green Bay led with 8 minutes left, and they scored 44 points in the entire game for the championship last year. So the past 3 years have been pretty horrible endings. So for it to happen this year is pretty spectacular.
Oh, so close, 3 years in a row, and finally. So and it sucks because Brown and Sykes will probably, at this point, you probably would put Brown and Sykes as in the top 8 of players in Green Bay's history. So it's pretty incredible that that it wasn't until they were gone.
Right.
I had the thought had crossed my mind that, is this just an indictment of Brian Wardle as a coach? Is Link Darter much better? And I put that on Brian's board. And I think it was Shooting the J, because it's always Shooting the J that answers. I think he said something along the lines of, well, think of how close those teams were. It's just a really close loss in the semis and 14, the title game last year, from being in the same position that they are now. And yeah, that's a fairly good point. And plus, he also mentioned that Darner's Green Bay team was only 4th place compared to the other 2 that were, first and second in the regular season. So you're definitely looking at a team that, in the regular season at least, achieve on the same level. They just put it together once they got to the conference tournament. I will, before I were to, down the road, I'll talk about a couple of the other players that I really admire, but I do want to say that Cooper and oh my God, his name is escaping me right now. The taller wing who's new this year.
Jamar Hurdle.
It's Jamar Hurdle. Like they came through, I felt like they've really grown as players very much over the course of the 3 games that we played each other this season. I think in Milwaukee, the 2 of them were you saw the pieces, you saw the skill, you saw the skeleton of what could be really good players. And then up in Green Bay for the return game, I really felt like those guys are starting to come in their own. And then in this HoriZone League tournament, they really did come into their own as players. And it's not a Faust and Love show. So I actually think Green Bay stands a pretty good chance of winning this game with Texas A&M because they're not going to be relying on 2 guys. They do have, several kinds of heat that they can throw at the Aggies.
Right, and for example, the title game against Wright State, Green Bay, all 5 scorers were in double figures, so they have a balanced attack. It's not like you can just lock down on 1 or 2 guys.
Right.
True. Yeah, and I'm glad Jimmy, I am glad that you mentioned both Carrington Love and Jordan Faust because those are 2 guys who they've been through the battles, both of them. Particularly Jordan Faust. I mean that, probably far and away probably he really is one of the best defenders just in the conference.
I've said this for his entire career. I think that he's a very special player. You don't see a guy who can defend 1 through 5, and you don't see a guy that can defend them even satisfactorily very often. And Jordan will defend all 5 of them at a high level. So, to me, any year of his 4 years of eligibility at Green Bay, if I had to build a team to win the HoriZone League, that's a guy that's in my starting 5. All 4 years, like I've felt that since he got there, he's been an incredible defender, and that's before he even added the 3-pointer this year, and obviously on to another level once he got to the conference tournament. So obviously, here in Milwaukee, we're huge fans of Faust and Love. They are very, very close to some of our guys. So I have come down to campus on occasion during the off season and seen Love and Faust hanging out, playing off season pickup ball with our guys. Love is from Milwaukee. Faust is from nearby, just south of here in Racine. They're good guys. I've met them, each of them, multiple times through the Milwaukee Pro-Am, and I'm very, very happy that they've come so close the last couple of years, and they lost the guys that everybody looked to as the stars. And I'm so happy for those 2 guys that they were able to get to the NCAA tournament in the end and get closure. As bad as it was for us on Sunday, it feels. I at least feel like they got some closure for 2014. In that, because Brown's shoulder wasn't right in that tournament, and Sykes hurt his ankle. It was his ankle, right? Or was it his knee?
Yep, that's right, his ankle.
He hurt his ankle in the title game, in the semifinal. And obviously, they weren't at full strength when we beat them. And sometimes that's just how the basketball gods want it. Sometimes it's not match 5-on-5 in skill. Sometimes the circumstance decides. And for 14 and 15, Green Bay was so close and didn't quite get there. And in both of those years, it was ended by one was ended by Milwaukee, one was ended by Valpo. And for them to get to this NCAA tournament, they had to go through both. And I'm glad that the 2 of them specifically, because I've met them personally multiple times. And Carrington Love is one of the coolest guys in the world. Like, he's just such a nice guy. And for them to get there, I'm thrilled for those guys. So kudos to Carrington and Jordan Faust for really adapting to Link Darner's game and turning it into turning the difficulties into an NCAA tournament, first in 20 years.
That's right, and actually Jordan Faust has started every single game he's been in uniform for. It's his entire career. He started every game, which I think is amazing. Just the model of consistency, durability. He's the Horizon League all-time leader in steals. He's the Green Bay program leader in career rebounds. He's second only to Alec Brown in blocks. So I mean, he just had a fantastic career at Green Bay.
Is he the school record holder for games started?
I think he is now. Yes, with the tournament run. Yeah.
Because Tony Bennett and Bennett and Nordgaard couldn't have played as many games as he has.
Yeah, they play more games now. Yeah.
Right. So
I think before that the leader was like Troy Cotton or something like that. So.
Hey, another Milwaukee guy.
That's right, another Milwaukee guy. I had to get that in there.
How is it that every guy from Milwaukee was so effective against us? On a green. Yeah, I can go down the list. You Troy, Carrington, Bree Perrine. I consider Faust because Racine is basically a suburb of Milwaukee.
Right.
Like they've
Hurdle, another Milwaukee guy.
I really look forward to another, dealing with him in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just got done with Faust, and now we're gonna. As good as Faust is an outstanding player. I'll be honest with you though, I'm not gonna miss playing against him. Because he gave Cleveland State fits for years. He really did.
Contrary to popular belief, I do not want Green Bay's athletics program to fall into the Bay. I do want them to stay good because as arch rivalries go, this one has been very fun for me over the years and sometimes very frustrating. And
you make it sound fun, I'll tell you that.
It would be very disappointing to not have that. If Green Bay were to fall off completely, or if we were to fall off completely, these games have been always been so close, and it's such a great rivalry. I love the Green Bay rivalry, and I hope it continues, for many years, and it's such a. It's such a good thing, and they got the upper hand this year, and that's just the way it goes for us. And I do want Green Bay to stay good for the future. So I'm happy that they're in the NCAA tournament. It keeps the rivalry fresh for everybody here in Milwaukee.
I was at that game in Milwaukee earlier this year, and despite the way that ended, because that was pretty awful for me, but that was a great environment, and that was a lot of fun. So I totally agree with you. I love the rivalry.
I wish that our arena was a little smaller because if that had been if the Panther Arena were 8,000 seats, that would have just been a complete nut house. And it was just the ceiling is too tall for anything less than 10,000 fans, or anything less than 9,000 fans. So I mean it was still an incredible atmosphere. And what did we have? Something like 1,500 or almost 2,000 students at that game. And I mean, obviously Green Bay traveled down. It was just so much fun. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the game up at Green Bay. It looked like it was going to be a laugher, and then that turned around, and he turned around in the NCAA. If it's not close, the next one's going to be close.
Right.
There have been blowouts on each side. I remember games where Ryan Evanachka would be the only guy that's scoring for Green Bay, and we'd beat them by 20. And I remember, some games where Green Bay would just come out and just torch us. But then the next game it would be down to the wire. It didn't matter if we were 9-22, like in 06-07. It's just a rivalry that's great. And man, they're gonna take it to Texas A&M. We saw it firsthand in 2005. A team that can pressure for 40 minutes and score a lot of points can give a high major team that doesn't know that isn't ready for them. It can give them fits, and Texas A&M's got a couple really good players. Obviously, I think they had 2 guys on the tournament team this year.
I saw that. Yeah, and Jimmy and I were talking about this before we started the broadcast about the SEC final game where they played Kentucky, and they played Kentucky. That was and if I'm not mistaken, A&M was the top seeded team in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they won. They were the SEC regular. I think it's the West.
They were the SEC regular season champs, and they went toe to toe with Kentucky, and that is definitely going to be. And they're a 3. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised they're a 3 seed, but I understand given that the top 2 seeds are just there were so many. You could make an argument for so many of those to be the top 2 seeds. I mean,
always going to be a team that's really good that just doesn't quite. That has to be pushed down to the next tier because there's too many teams.
So sorry to say, Green Bay, you have to play Texas A&M. Well, it's interesting because a lot of the pundits, the bracket pundits, had pegged Green Bay to be as a 15, meaning that they were going to play one of those super tough 2 seeds, and there's a lot of them there. I mean, a lot of the idea was the thought process there was that potentially it was going to be a Green Bay Michigan State matchup. Jimmy, we're not going to explain why you wanted that one, but it ended up being at 14. But you guys ended up getting, the Phoenix ended up getting a 14 seed, and their handsome reward is the top seed from the SEC, Texas A&M.
Yeah,
that's right. I was looking at the bracketology, and you're right. I saw they're slotted to play Michigan State, and I'm like, well, Izzo makes the Sweet 16 every single year, so I don't like that.
Izzo seems to make the Final Four every other year, so I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And what I find funny about that, and not the other thing that we're not going to talk about, Jimmy, one of Tom Izzo's longtime assistant coaches is former Cleveland State coach and Mike Garland, as much as we'd like to forget that he was one.
Yeah, Michigan State's a hell of a program.
It really is.
Obviously, what Bob's talking about is he's talking about why I wanted Green Bay to play Michigan State was because I wanted Green Bay to end Bryn Forbes' career. The chip on the guy's shoulder when they played Oakland, he looked so like angry, like. And I don't know why. It's like hey man, you left. What is your big deal with Oakland? They were just showing up to play. Like I looked at that Michigan State game against Oakland and I was thinking, man, it would be nice to see a Horizon League team get a shot to take them down.
You'll never get that shot now. I'm sorry.
Oh well, I'll take a win.
Forbes, by the way, I just can't.
Neither can I.
Yeah.
Neither can I.
I listen to the podcast. I don't want to bring up the transfer saga again.
Oh, Jesus. Thank you. Oh God. Oh yeah. It's like the thing that wouldn't die. One of our good fans, Craig Jones. He kind of got a nice dig in on Twitter a couple weeks ago about him, because they were talking about during the tournament they had this freaking montage about the transfers, and I tweeted out, when are you guys does it have to it comes up every single time, and then Craig tweets back, dude, you talk about it every damn podcast. Like, shut up, Bob.
Well.
No, Craig's way nicer than that. So
hey, that transfer, it's not a long shot argument to say that the 3 transfers out of Cleveland State cost Valpo the NCAA tournament.
Oh,
they were,
okay.
Well, I'm just saying this.
Let Valpo complain about it then. We'll talk a little bit more about the Valpo thing next episode, but yeah, let Valpo start complaining about him now. And Cleveland State has shut it down. They're done.
Anyways, Green Bay's got a hard game in front of them because House went off today. I think he scored like 30 or 32 points.
Yeah, he had 32 today.
House was on fire. Oh yes.
and I think it's Dalen Jones. I just call him Jones all season. I mean, those two guys are incredible. The freshman, that Tyler Davis, that kid waxes the glass. Him and Davis and Faust is going to be an incredible matchup. The two of them going at it in the post, I am looking forward to it a lot. And I'm going to make a prediction on something. No matter what the final score is, I think that Jordan Faust is going to get at least one steal from stripping a guy after the guy gets a rebound, and I think it's going to be Davis.
I think.
That's my
You're
prediction.
probably right.
Is that Davis will get a rebound, Faust will strip it and get a bucket. Or somebody in Green Bay will get the bucket.
I could do it.
My prediction for him. Friday at, was it 6:20 p.m.? Friday?
Yep, 6:20 Central Time on TBS.
Yeah.
Right.
TBS, very funny. Is that still their tagline for TBS?
That's right, with Carter Blackburn and Mike Kaminsky on the call.
Ah, okay.
I like that crew. They're not Ian Eagle and Jim Spanarkel, but they're pretty good.
Right.
You're not going to get Ian Eagle on every broadcast, Jimmy.
I love Ian Eagle. That guy's great.
Actually, Vern Lundquist is calling with Jim Spanarkel this year.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Because after he's got bumped up to the Final Four, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. We had Vern and Bill in 2014 in Buffalo when we played was it who beat us? Oh my God, Villanova. When we played Villanova in 2014, Lundquist and Raftery were there, and a few of us got to talk to them at the practice the day before. And Vern Lundquist is a funny guy. I'll tell you that, like a very jolly, funny, jovial guy. And I've always been a big fan of him. Obviously, our entire generation loves the movie Happy Gilmore. So getting Vern Lundquist to actually meet him in person was like a real treat.
Right.
All right. So what are the other than Faust making a steal after a rebound? Any other predictions for this game? Yeah, I know it's going to be kind of a tough one, obviously, because they're
going to need to force a lot of turnovers. I mean, just looking at Texas A&M, they're really tall, and Green Bay doesn't have a lot of height. So they played Stanford earlier in the year. They had a lot of height, and Green Bay was able to hang with them by forcing turnovers. So, I mean, they're going to have to force their style. The up-tempo, Jimmy talked about it, the RP40, relentless pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is going to have to come. Yeah, that RP40 is going to have to kick in overdrive for this game.
I'll make another prediction. I think that Texas A&M will have one of its 5 most turnovers in the game from the season for playing Green Bay. And Green Bay is going to force a lot of turnovers on them.
I'd say that's going to be a fair assessment. I mean, that's just because of the way that they play.
Russo and Collins for A&M, those guys both get a ton of assists, and I think Texas A&M is one of the top teams in the country for assists this season. So it's not like Texas A&M is just an easy, just a team that will turn the ball over easy just because it's Green Bay. They get a lot of assists, and obviously they handled Jordan Johnson on Sunday. Obviously, he had such a difficult game, for us on Sunday. So I believe that's going to carry over. I think the RP40 is going to get to him, and I really hope that Green Bay wins that game because we all need money. We all need.
We're doing it for purely financial purposes. Go Green Bay so the Horizon League can get more money. We're running out of the Butler money.
I'm throwing aside my. Obviously, for Milwaukee, it's not a good development as far as the rivalry is concerned and recruiting. Actually, not so much recruiting anymore because I don't think we've really recruited against each other very often since I think Cody Wickman was the last player, but Cody Wickman was a preferred walk-on offer from Green Bay and a scholarship offer from us. And I don't remember the last player after him that had a scholarship offer from both teams. that ended up at either of the schools. Jarrell DeBerry did commit to Green Bay, but he ended up obviously not, making it up there.
Right.
But so I don't think it's going to hurt us like recruiting wise. But I'm willing to cast aside rivalry and root for Green Bay on Friday because Horizon League unity. Let's go with that.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's funny, we're playing the SEC team. The SEC likes to, band together. So maybe we got to do that in the Horizon League too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should. I think we should come up with something that all the Horizon League teams do when they're on playing other conferences. I made a joke once upon a time that players should draw the the logo where's the star guy.
The Starman. Yeah.
I always thought it'd be funny if you had a Horizon League player and he takes his finger and he points the horizon over his head. I always thought that would be. I tried getting one of the guys on our team to do it in a game and he obviously didn't do it because he wasn't going to embarrass himself. But I just wanted it to see it. It was the funniest idea. But it would be nice to get some Horizon, a Horizon League, some kind of Horizon League name or something, some kind of hand signal or something we all, have for the conference.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think any of our players like the league that much to do that though?
I think they like each other. Obviously.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah, I mean, they obviously do. That's without saying. Yeah.
I will say one thing for Horizon League Unity's sake. Back in 2005, and there's going to be swear in this, and so if you have virgin ears, close them. But
hey, don't worry, we'll have that. We'll select the explicit lyrics thing, so you'll be fine.
So back in 2005, we go to the Sweet 16. We beat Alabama in the first game, and the second game, Boston College, which had been 20-0 before they lost their first game. Boston College was the 4 seed, and they went up 11-0 against us. Right, very very quickly. Boston College had scored 11 points. They had Sean Williams, Jared Dudley. They were a very good team. It was probably their best team that they probably had in this entire millennium. And Jared Dudley. After scoring, I don't know if he scored the last bucket, but after Boston College scored the 11th point, they're on their way back, and Jared Dudley nudges Ed McCants, who was our leading scorer. He nudged him. He's like, "Welcome to the Big East." I remember the Big East is where the BC was, until they lost that game before they went to the ACC.
And if I'm not mistaken, this season they didn't win a single game in the ACC this year. So
yeah, I made the joke on Facebook the other day that we killed their program. Obviously, it's not true.
I think you might have actually.
One was a Sweet 16, so obviously we didn't actually do that. But I like thinking that we did. But he nudges nudges McCann, and he goes, "Welcome to the Big East." He says, "Welcome to the Big East, bitch." And McCants is like, "Dude, this is so early. What are you really gonna start taunting like that?" And with 15 or 45 seconds left in the game, Milwaukee's up by 10 or 11, and Boston College I think scored one more bucket to get it close. But Ed McCants hits a 3 with a couple minutes left or something like that, and Milwaukee's up. And it's pretty obvious that Milwaukee's going to win. And McCants runs past Jared Dudley, and he nudges him and from behind. And Dudley looks at him, and McCants goes, "Welcome to the Horizon League, motherfucker." I think I've heard that story from Ed as well as 3 or 4 of them. It's just to say it's so funny, You're gonna welcome to the Big East. It's such a stupid thing to say. So he turned around and was like, "Welcome to the Horizon League, motherfucker." It was just really funny.
I want Carrington Love to do that on Friday.
That would be something, man.
Carrington Love's too nice to do something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I really hope they win, man. I'm rooting for Green Bay all the way on Friday. So let's.
All right.
Get a W. start restoring the luster to this conference.
Yeah, and start getting us paid. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, in the last,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
few years, there's been 14 seeds that have won. So,
Well,
precedent.
Yes,
Really?
there is. Yes. Oh, yes, there. Yeah, only a handful.
Yeah,
And,
last year was Georgia State over Baylor, and UAB
Yes.
over Iowa State. That was just last year. There's 2 of them actually.
Oh wait, Georgia State and Georgia State was that the game with the great, just with the greatest thing ever with
Yeah, the coach fell off his little scooter thing. That was awesome.
Yes, that was so great.
Yeah, that
That
was
was-
15 over a 3 right there. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Ron Hunter, that was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He was IUPUI's coach for a long time. He had,
Oh my God! And let me tell you something. Ron Hunter would have loved to still have. I mean, would have loved to have him as a coach in this conference, man. Just Ron Hunter, just pure energy, dude.
at Milwaukee in the 90s. Back when Steve Antrim was head coach. In fact, my boss Pat Easterlin at Boucher VW, he was recruited to UWM by Ron Hunter. So earlier this year, Georgia State actually did a bobblehead of Ron Hunter like on the stool about to fall off.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to have one of those. So I went. I found out that it was actually like our guys that do the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame that ran it. So I'm going to get one of those bobbleheads. It's so great to see a guy, such a nice guy like Ron Hunter, with all the things that he did for, he's done for Samaritan's Feet over the years and all that. It was cool to see something like that happen for him. So I love the NCAA tournament. There's nothing better in sports. So we're coming up on the best week ever, and let's just be so happy about the developments here. I'm really pleased, and I'm really rooting for Green Bay to win on Friday.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean and again, and let's be honest, with this group here, would you really put it past them to be able to pull off I mean, they went 4 days in a row.
No.
Something no other conference team has done. 4 days in a row, going up against the toughest competition this conference has. Would you put it past them to give Texas A&M a battle? I wouldn't.
No, not a chance. Green Bay will absolutely be able to give them a game and hopefully a win.
Yep.
They play the style that just messes with teams like this all the time. So see you later.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Brian, once again, thank you very much for joining us. I know that I know you got a lot of things going on. I hope the move went very well. By the way.
Yeah, it was a long day today, but thanks for having me on. It was fun.
All right, wonderful. And again, this is the first.
That's why you couldn't be on the show a few weeks ago or like a month ago or something.
Yeah, I just got a job down here in the Milwaukee area, so I moved from Green Bay in with my girlfriend, and now we bought a house. So that was the second move into the house today.
Where did you buy a house?
Wauwatosa.
No way.
Yeah.
Like what streets are you by?
89th and Burleigh. It's kind of by Mount Mary University over there.
It's a fantastic neighborhood.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's incredible. Congratulations, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. It was a long day, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. That's
All right.
awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, absolutely. We love having you on, and good luck to Green Bay in the tournament. And again, this is the first of these 2 episodes we're having this week. We'll catch you a little later on this week with a lot more talk here on the HoriZone Roundtable. Again, catch us on 4lights.fm. We'll definitely see you sooner than you think.
Thanks everybody for listening.